it can be quite hard to open up about your career to someone that perhaps doesn't understand the day-to-day operations that go on within firms such as a law firm. It can make it quite complicated, especially when you're perhaps using legal terms that just go over their head.
It's funny you say that, actually, Nick, because I've got a friend who's in legal tech as well, and he often says things to me like, "Oh, you're such a lawyer," and I'm thinking, "Oh, I just said so." You know, it becomes so ingrained, you don't even realise, I think, that your own industry has its own specific ways of saying and doing stuff. And I completely agree with what you both say there, because I think if people, you know, if you're speaking to a coach or speaking to anyone who you feel like just doesn't get your situation, you're not going to open up. You're not going to be able to work through that.
Absolutely. I think one subject that comes up quite a bit in our discussions around technology and how it can be used to improve the lives of lawyers is that when it comes to drafting a contract, for example, me as a company, I'll go, "Can you create this contract with this supplier?" And quite often we get something that's about 15 to 20 pages long and covering so many scenarios with kind of very little insight into the commercials of how the business actually operates. And that lawyer may have spent until 3 a.m. kind of drafting this contract. And through that lack of empathy, and obviously I'm generalizing a lot here, and that desire to kind of understand me as a business or me as a client, they've created this contract that the other side just sees and goes, "Well, that's completely wrong. Can we change it all?" And I see a lot of that, and the law ends up going backwards and forwards. And then things like this is what contributes to the steps towards burnout. I think it's a lot of things that shouldn't really be happening. And if lawyers were perhaps a bit more mindful of their own well-being, they'd be able to create their space for the clients as well. Take the time to sit down with them and understand them, and not just necessarily dive straight into the extremes.
I think legal tech potentially has a lot to offer when it comes to well-being and productivity. And the industry is really not at the cutting edge, so to speak. I did an assessment of Swedish law firms a year ago and asked the leaders, "How do you delegate?" And every single one of them said meetings, telephones, or emails. But if you ask in another professional services firm that is outside of the law, they're using project management tools and platforms. Emails are not very conducive for advanced business projects involving 15, 20 people, because it fractures the information. So you have to seek the information in hundreds of emails and dozens of email trails. And one of the reasons many law firms, back in 2019 said, we can't use those platforms because we can't have the client material in the cloud. It's sensitive, but then everything is in the cloud. Your emails are in the cloud. They're not driven by trucks or anything like that. So it's certainly time for, I think, the legal tech discourse to become more relevant for all the associates and all the partners in their everyday work, and not just talk about AI and what could be possible tomorrow, but really what should have been done yesterday, especially under the pandemic. And then we have hybrid work and remote work and so on, to make sure that you have a working environment that is optimizing your effectiveness. I think that's really critical.